Hello, my name is Katie Saint. I'm a lead therapist at Fox Valley Autism. I am making this video today as an intro video for families new to our program. So if you're watching this, that means you're about to start on a new journey with us. So my hope is that I'll give you an overview of what to expect and some basic ABA information so you know a little bit about what and why the therapists are going to do what they do. So, to start with, let's talk about what does therapy look like. So, ABA therapy at Fox Valley Autism Treatment Program is typically pretty play-based. We call it natural environment teaching. And what that means is the child is playing and doing their everyday activities. And through those activities, we are teaching and the child is learning. And so we try to make therapy as fun as possible. We try to bond with the child so that he or she is having fun while they're learning. And so it can be a really good experience. Therapy isn't always super fun. Sometimes we have to work through behaviors and the child will be upset, and it's our job to work with the child through those tantrums and different things like that too. So you'll see some of that as well, where we're purposely pushing a child outside of their comfort zone for the purpose of growth. So sometimes you'll see us sitting at a table with a child as well. We call this table time. And this is a good way to develop some skills and things like that. Sometimes we go in the community and we'll go on outings to help the child be successful in the community as well. So therapy can look pretty different based on your child's needs, but that's one really neat thing about our program. Every child's treatment is individualized. Every child's therapy is going to be completely centered around that child's needs. So we count on you as parents to communicate with us so that we can make sure that's the best possible plan. And so let us know your thoughts, anything you want to add or take away or don't understand. We want to hear all your thoughts and questions. So next I want to talk about the 80-20 ratio. This is a common saying that we have as a general goal for therapy. Basically, the principle is that people learn best through an 80-20 ratio. 80% is supposed to be fun, not super hard, um, basically just non-stressful stuff. 20% is supposed to be the challenging stuff, the stuff that pushes you outside of your comfort zone and really stretches you to grow. So, as therapists, that's what we're aiming for, that 80-20 ratio. So, sometimes we can't do that because of whatever circumstance. That ratio just isn't possible in that moment. But we definitely do our best to strive for that. So hopefully you'll see therapy following that pattern a little bit. Another thing to talk about in regards to what therapy looks like is the difference between babysitting versus therapy. So one thing we cannot do is just hang out and babysit your child. Everything we do with your child needs to be intentional and needs to be therapeutic. It needs to have the goal of helping your child grow in some way. So it is the senior therapist's job to train the line therapists on how to do that. And they will make a plan for your child and they will spell out for the line therapist exactly how they should be spending their time with your child. It shouldn't be just hanging out watching movies together. So, sometimes we will maybe use electronics as a reward or an incentive, and that's okay. We just need to make sure everything we do is therapeutic. So, the next thing I want to talk about is the different roles within the company. So your biggest point of contact, the people you're going to see the most, is line therapist. So a line therapist is typically a college student, not always. It can be anyone of any age over 18 that has gone through the training that is required to be a line therapist. But typically, we hire college students, and typically there's quite a bit of turnover because of the transitions that happen when going to college. So you'll probably experience different therapists as you go through your journey. That's something you can expect. We try to avoid it as much as possible, but yet at the same time, it's good for kids to be exposed to different people and different personality types. So it is therapeutic as well for the turnover. Another issue with line therapists is the shortage of them statewide. The state of Wisconsin right now is extremely short on line therapists, and so we recruit as much as we possibly can to try and compensate for this. However, there are times when there is delay in hiring where we're looking for good people, and it takes time. So that's something you can expect too, that staffing is not always as fast as we would ideally like it. But line therapists are going to be playing with their kid. They're going to be the ones doing most of the hands-on work of training your child to do new things. So typically therapists, line therapists and families get really close because they spend so much time together. We just ask that you keep professional boundaries with them, and that you don't hang out with them outside of therapy, and you're not Facebook or social media friends, just different things like that. Keep the boundaries professional. So then the next position is the senior therapist position. Their job is super important. Their qualifications are they need at least a minimum of a bachelor's degree, and they need 2,000 hours of experience doing ABA therapy. All of the seniors at Fox Valley Autism are way more qualified than that. As far as experience hours and things like that, we have a really, really impressive senior staff, which is pretty fun. But their role is to design the program and implement it, as far as presenting it to you, making sure you like it, and then training the line therapists, making sure they know how and understand what's expected of them. So the senior is your primary point of contact for questions you have, concerns, anything you want to change or add. We really ask that you communicate with the senior before you communicate with line therapists, just because this helps us function better as a team and getting everybody on the same page doing things if communication is streamlined through the senior. So seniors typically, when they're at your home, are going to be doing paperwork, training staff, updating the binder. They'll work with your child some as well, but not nearly as much as the line therapists. So the next position is the lead therapist. The lead therapist is required, depending on what type of therapy you're getting, they're required to come in your home every 6 to 8 weeks. Not every therapy type requires that, so if you're not seeing your lead that often, it's probably because of the type of therapy you're getting. But the lead therapist is always going to be a licensed professional. We have BCBAs on staff and one psychologist. So you would either get a BCBA or a psychologist, and they would come in and have team meetings with you to brainstorm about how things are going, and if you're stuck on anything, they can help with ideas on how to move forward. Seniors are required to have weekly contact with the lead therapist, and the the seniors are required to keep the leads up to date on everything that's going on with the cases so that they can make sure that everything's going well and that seniors have all the support they need. So once in a while, leads will come in and do assessments. The psychologist that works with our company, her name is Dr. Sue. She does evals and she's so gifted at them. So she's somebody who can be really valuable. The BCBAs can do different behavioral assessments with your child to help figure out behavior issues and things like that. So we have a lot of different resources available to us. The next position I want to talk about is Stacy Ferg's position. She's the program manager, and she's going to be your point of contact for any insurance questions you have. If you have staffing issues, you could also come to her. You can also come to the lead therapist too if your staffing issues aren't being addressed by your senior. So Stacy is a great point of contact for any questions about insurance or staffing, things like that. Dr. Klein is the owner of the company. He is retiring in December 2018. So when he retires, Stacy Ferg will take over the company. So Dr. Klein does not have any contact with clients anymore. That transition has started, and he's passed that to Stacy. So again, questions that you might have for him would be redirected to Stacy. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is canceling. So in ABA therapy, we work in your homes, and we basically have the same policy as school about illness. If a child has a fever or is vomiting or has diarrhea, we ask that you cancel. We work with a lot of kiddos, and we can spread it really fast if we catch it too. So we just prefer that you cancel until everybody's feeling better without those symptoms. On the flip side, we also ask that you be very careful to not cancel unless you have to for multiple reasons. One, ABA therapy works best when it's consistent. So if there's a lot of cancellations and things like that, that's going to slow down progress with your kid. And so that's something that none of us want. The other reason is that Lyme therapists count on those hours for their income. And sometimes we've lost Lyme therapists in the past because there were too many cancellations, and so the Lyme therapist financially couldn't make it work anymore. So we just ask that you be really careful not to cancel unless you have to. But if you do have to because of illness, please do. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is CPS. So all therapists at Fox Valley Autism and elsewhere are mandated reporters. So everything in your home, everything we know about your client, we're bound by confidentiality. We can't say anything except abuse. We are required by law to report abuse, and there can be some pretty extreme consequences to therapists if they don't report it, including fines, jail time, losing licenses, never working in the field again. So it's a pretty big deal that we have to follow. So I want to go over what the different types of things that we would have to report are. So one is just physical abuse. So if a child has bruises and says that his mom or his dad or whoever did it to him on purpose, that's something we'd have to report. Any sort of physical abuse that we either witness or the child reports. We have to report all kinds of sexual abuse. This also includes exposing a child to pornography or explicit sexual content of any kind. Emotional abuse is something that we would have to report as well. So this would include humiliating a child on purpose, calling them really mean names. This one is more subjective, but is still something that we need to take serious and do our best to prevent. The next one is neglect. So a child needs food, water, a house to live in, and clothes to wear. Anything less than that, needs to be reported. So if a child's not being fed or they don't have clothes that they can wear, those are the kinds of things that we have to report. The next or the last one on the list is just about extreme uncleanliness. So if the home is filled with urine and feces, um, or moldy food, things that could cause health concerns, that type of thing we would need to report as well. If there's ever lice or fleas in the home, we don't need to report that, but we would have to cancel therapy so that we didn't catch it and spread it and things like that. So calling CPS is extremely rare. We really don't want you to worry about this at all, but we just want you to also know what the boundaries are up front. So next I want to talk about ABA and what exactly it is. What are some basic principles that you should know as you enter into ABA therapy? ABA is a deep passion of mine. I love it so much because it works really, 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 really good in every scenario where it's implemented perfectly. So there's over 30 years of research on ABA therapy, and there's thousands and thousands of studies on like countless species, people, like every diagnosis, every age, animals. They've even taught honeybees to recognize the difference between Monet paintings and Picasso paintings. ABA therapy is amazing. It can literally teach you to do anything. So I'm super passionate about it because I feel like it is the answer to literally all of the world's problems. So that's super, super exciting. We get to do that with you and your kid, and we get to see so much growth. And every therapist at our company shares my excitement for seeing kids grow. We all, that's what reinforces us as therapists, your kid making progress. So, how we do that is through ABA principles. So, one basic thing I want to start with is the concept of functions of behavior. So, what ABA teaches is that all behaviors fall into 4 categories. The first category is want. A child will have a behavior, or an adult, any person, thing, will have a behavior to get what they want. So sometimes people just ask for something to get what they want. Sometimes children will cry to get what they want or throw things. So getting what they want is the first function. Function number 2 is attention. Sometimes people will do things simply to get attention from another human being. So that's called attention-seeking behavior. The third one is escape. Something bad is happening and they want out. They want escape. So the third function then is escape. They're trying to get out of something. The fourth function has a couple different names. Sometimes people call it sensory, sometimes people call it internal or automatic. What this one is referring to is when you do things simply because it feels good, or maybe there's a medical reason. It's just all that internal stuff. So like I chew gum a lot, and it's simply because I like to. It's just, it doesn't really serve a purpose of escape or anything like that. I just enjoy it. So that's the 4 functions of behavior. So anytime we are looking at your child and analyzing why they're doing what they're doing, we're thinking about those 4 functions. Because if we can identify the function, we can then change the behavior. So there is something called extinction, and extinction is what we need to do if a child is having a problem behavior and we want them to use an appropriate behavior instead. So, for example, if a child is having attention-seeking behavior, let's say they throw things to get your attention, we want the child to learn that doesn't work. Throwing things to get attention is not effective. Rather, saying, "Hey mom, will you play with me?" We want them to say that instead, or some version of that. So by using extinction, if they throw things to get what they want, we're going to ignore them. We're not going to allow that behavior to work. So the attention seeking one is especially important for all parents to understand, because it looks really bad if you don't know what we're doing. Because you're going to see your child having a behavior, and then you're going to see the therapist ignoring it, not doing anything at all. And sometimes in the past, parents would have been like, "Why aren't you doing anything? My child's being inappropriate. It's your job to work on their behaviors. Why are you ignoring it?" And the answer is because they're supposed to. If it's attention-seeking behavior, the best thing you can do to make it go away is to ignore it. So that's really important that you understand that's why we're doing that, and we want you to do that as well too. So hopefully through your ABA therapy, you'll start to be able to identify the functions of behavior as well, so that we can all be on the same team and addressing behaviors the same. So if the function of the behavior is escape, then we're going to block the escape, meaning they have to finish the task before they move on. So if the child runs away because he doesn't want to do homework and starts to play video games or eat supper instead, we would want to block that, and we would want to say, "No, you can't do anything else fun until you complete the task that was given to you." So this one is really important that we all work together as a team on, so that we don't accidentally give the child escape without knowing it. So the next one is the want-based behaviors. That's going to be the same thing, where we just block the want. The answer is no until they have appropriate behavior to earn it. So next, I would like to talk about reinforcement and punishment. This is the very basic concept of every behavior that we do is because it was either reinforced or punished. So take, for example, a guy who wants to go fishing. If he goes fishing in the same spot every day and he never catches anything, he's going to change spots. He's going to pick a different place to go because that spot didn't reinforce him. In that setting, the reinforcer was catching fish, and no fish were available to be caught, so he's moving on. If a guy asks a girl out on a date over and over again and she says no, eventually he's going to give up and move on. He's not being reinforced for his behavior. So another example would be if a door is jammed shut and you're trying to get the door open, trying, and it doesn't work, you're eventually going to give up and use a different door. So as ABA therapists, we look for patterns of reinforcement and punishment. So we want to change the child's environment so that the behaviors we want to see more of get reinforced. And the behaviors that we want to see less of, we don't want that to get reinforced. We want that to either be ignored or punished and taken away. So our basic perception on punishment is that we use it in pretty rare situations. So what the research says about punishment is that punishment only works when the punisher is present. So take speeding, for example. Most people speed on a pretty regular basis. But if a police officer is present, if somebody sees a police car, usually people are driving really good then and really safely and not speeding at all. So punishment is just like that. That's what the research is showing, that it works in the moment if the person is there to give the punishment, but as soon as the person is not there, then that punishment doesn't generalize. It doesn't work anymore. What's interesting though is reinforcement does generalize. So a lot of times you'll see us finding incentives and things for your child to work towards and earn. And the reason we do this is because we can use that to then generalize that skill and help that skill happen in more and more settings. And then we will slowly fade out those artificial reinforcers so that the child just does it because that's what they do. So you'll see us be really systematic about that. Sometimes we'll use edible reinforcers. Other times we'll use games or activities, and we'll always check with you to make sure that you're okay with whatever sort of reinforcement that that we chose. But reinforcement is the #1 way to increase a behavior, so we're always looking for ways to do that. But again, I want you all to know that we're intentional about transitioning children off of reinforcers and so that the behavior becomes intrinsically motivated. So then the last thing I want to talk about today to conclude this intro video is just that we really, really care about your kids and we really care about their progress, and we want to work together on the same team as you. So please bring all of your questions and concerns and thoughts and ideas to your team so that we can all work together and celebrate successes and help your child gain their full potential. All right. Well, that is your ABA therapy overview. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a really great experience with Fox Valley Autism Treatment Program. All right, thanks.